Hello and welcome to the Morning After Show. My name is Joshua Reimer. Even though some of you may not remember me for how long it's been since I've been around, I am joined by none other than superstar Jarrett Block, who really took over things for me. For those who don't know, and I don't think there's many people in the Roto Raider community who don't know, ended up getting COVID last week, traveling over to the girlfriend's parents. It took me out, man. It was no joke. The fatigue and all the symptoms surrounding it. Jared, you took over, but now we're back on the morning after show, and I couldn't be more excited.
Yeah, man. Glad everything you were able to recover quickly. Obviously, I it's no joke, and we're happy to have you back here.
Yeah.
Personally, happy to very happy that you're back.
I bet.
It's been a week plus, man. It's been a
Yeah.
week. We have a lot to catch up on, a lot to talk about. Haven't had a stream since before Christmas, so there's
Yeah.
so much that's happened in the past week. I don't even know where to start.
Yeah, you're gonna be kind of catching me up here because even though I was off for a week, there wasn't much sports watching going on. It was mostly sleeping most of the time. So I'm excited to get caught up here on everything that's happened in January and after Christmas too, because we've been off for quite a while, man.
Yeah, we have, and it feels good to be back in, get the new year started off right.
For sure.
And yeah, I'm ready to talk some week 17 because man, we'll just start the show off with me getting things off my chest.
Yeah, yeah, go for it, man. Hey, let's start off week 17 and I already see we're talking about the Bucks, which should be a good time.
Yep, that's why I put it first because I
Yeah,
want to get it off and just get it over with. The Bucks were the sole reason that I lost almost everything yesterday.
yeah.
And that's the only really real way to put it here. Uh, Guess who rostered both Ronald Jones and Antonio Brown in the
Oh
same DraftKings
no.
build yesterday?
Oh
Yeah,
no. That's
and
not a good way to have week 17 start out, that's for sure.
no, no, it wasn't. And the pivots that I was looking at, every single one went off the other direction.
Oh,
So Antonio Brown, obviously, we'll talk about him in a little bit, but the guy that would have replaced him, two touchdown scorer Braxton Berrios
oh
yesterday.
no.
So
Yeah.
that was a great way to start off things. Then Ronald Jones got hurt, and then there was a couple. The truth is starting to come out with this Antonio Brown thing.
Yeah.
First, personally, I thought he was having another episode again, which, if you look back and you saw what was happening live, it definitely was. But when you look back at things, it seems like there's been more news coming out saying that the Bucks, including Bruce Arians, weren't really caring about his incentives or anything like that. They basically were like, if you don't want to play and go back in the game, then you're basically off the team or something to that extent. So he didn't want to play because he was being used as a decoy and they weren't really getting him involved. And they didn't care about the incentives that were on the table. For those of you who missed that, I covered this on our NFL podcast. He basically needed two touchdowns and like 200 receiving yards to hit some major bonus incentives for the season, and he just was not getting involved in the Bucks. Were down, I believe, two scores at that time to the Jets in New York. So it was a strange set of circumstances. At first, it seemed like he was throwing another tantrum, which indeed he was. But because he took his shoulder pads off and his jersey and was shirtless and was throwing things into the stands, and he almost got tackled by police on the way out. So,
Yeah, I saw this.
uh, yeah. So like at first, it seemed like it was definitely another one of those Antonio Brown things, but I think there's more to the story, and I think that the more time it goes on, I think the more will come out. Tom Brady took to the stand after the game was over. By the way, the Bucks won. I kept thinking that the Bucks were going to lose because it felt like they just lost the entire game,
Yeah.
but they came out and they ended up getting a win. But Tom was very empathetic to Antonio Brown, not saying anything harsh, not saying anything bad about it. Seems like there's definitely some kind of strange situation going on here with both parties. So I would not say that we should be blaming this on Antonio Brown after a little bit more research after the first thing that came through.
Yeah, and I mean, there's even more stuff coming through this morning. Like you said, like it was said that if he was injured and he might not go in, and like it seems like there's going to be a lot more that develops with the whole thing. So it's kind of a wait and see approach. I don't think it's everyone was blaming Antonio Brown to start out. I don't think it's necessarily quite yet Antonio Brown's fault, but we'll have to see. I mean, we've always known Antonio Brown to have that prima donna type of attitude anyway. Like it's in his scouting reports. So we know the type of player he is, but I'm curious to see what else comes out from this.
Yeah, me as well. It kind of puts the Bucks in an interesting spot with Godwin and Fournette now Rojo dealing with things. Mike Evans was limited. They are in a spot where after they won, they play the Panthers this week, and it just seems like uh, we'll have to see what the starting situation is here. But yeah, I think that that's going to be a very interesting situation for the Bucks. But they saw even against the Jets. I know it was the Jets, but they still found a way, even with like fourth, fifth, sixth string wide receivers, to make things right. So we'll see what happens with them. Going to be very interesting to see how it plays out because they will be having to go on the road at some point. We're not going to be able to play the whole thing at Tampa. So yeah, that's kind of where I wanted to start and get all the bad vibes out of the way,
Yeah.
because that basically ruined my day yesterday, and I probably took that a little bit more to heart and should have. It's interesting to see how the news is shaping out after the whole thing, but that's basically the reason that DFS sucked yesterday. Uh, but I'll tell you what didn't suck: the Packers single game showdown slate. That slate
Yeah.
didn't suck.
Yeah, it definitely didn't suck. From what I saw on Twitter, it was definitely a good night for you. Yeah, it sucks for me because I don't know if you remember, but I made it to the finals of my high stake dynasty league, and I
Yep.
had Antonio Brown on that team. And I was like, I got to start Antonio Brown. Like he's gonna go off today. And yeah, it didn't work out for many people who had Antonio Brown shares. Let's keep talking about Week 17. Talk about everything else that happened in Week 17, including this really close game for the Rams. I mean, I I really thought they were going to blow out the Ravens, and I think a lot of people thought they would have a firm control on this game. But you come into the fourth quarter, you're down by two scores. Like it was a tough day for the Rams for sure.
It was, and they continue to have, man, like the defense just doesn't look right. I don't know what's going on offense. There was a specific drive where I think it was the first drive coming into the second half, and the Rams were looking good. They were giving Sony Michelle every single thing. He was breaking tackles. He looked fresh. He was getting first down conversions, and then all of a sudden they just go like after five or six straight runs, they take Michelle off the field. They go into a five wide set, and then Stafford gets sacked and loses the ball and fumbles, and Baltimore recovers, and that was that. And I was just like, what are we doing here? Like Stafford again, two picks, a fumble lost. Like I know he'd put up decent passing numbers only because they had to. What are we like after looking great almost the entire season and being a top five MVP candidate? He's put up some huge stinkers back to back weeks.
Yeah, yeah, I know because I started Stafford in that league where I was in the championship, a league with a whole bunch of friends, and thinking that Stafford would end up doing better than Josh Allen last week, and it did not pan out, man. Like he had such a bad week last week, and I think what kind of speaks volumes is that these aren't tough opponents. Like these should not, the Vikings and the Ravens should not be games where you're posting a combined five interceptions. I think that's my main takeaway, and Stafford's gonna Stafford, but I don't know. We've always known that he gets injury prone. Maybe it's an injury
Yeah.
that he's trying to survive through. Like we know this back from when he was with the Detroit Lions. So I'm really curious to see how Stafford comes out because, like you said, he's been great all year. He's been a fantastic. He's definitely turned out well for this Rams team, but things are turning sour these past 2 weeks at least.
Yeah, and I mean, not enough people are talking about it because they have won five straight games. So they have no reason to complain about it. But when you're struggling against the Seahawks, Rams, and Ravens in consecutive games, like even throwing a like the pick six that he threw in the first quarter was one of the worst throws that he's made all season. And I don't know, maybe it's something that he just unravels throughout the regular season like he has in Detroit, and a lot of those things can't be blamed on injuries, and he's a fighter and he will play through all that stuff. There was some rumors and inklings that he's been playing with like some sort of back injury since the Vikings game. So I guess we'll see how it plays out. But they can't take Week 18 off. They have to play
No.
and host the Niners, who also came up with a big win yesterday.
Yeah, I mean it's an important game. The Niners are going to probably need to win this one to get the best possible playoff spot, and Rams are going to need this to clinch the NFC West. So like
Yep.
this is definitely going to come down to a great game to end off Week 18, and I'm excited for it for sure as a Niners fan. Let's talk about the Bengals and Chiefs, possibly one of the best games on the weekend, at least from an offensive standpoint. I mean, this was just a joy to watch all the way around, especially for those Jamar Chase truthers out there. He had a humongous day, career highs, and Bengals end up getting the win, which is a really big win for them against the Chiefs, in my opinion. What are your thoughts on this Bengals team now? Because they've kind of, I mean, like I remember when they were almost losing to the Jets, right? And now they're out here beating the Chiefs. So it's really been the two different tales for this Bengals team throughout the season.
Yeah, for real. Yeah. By the way, they did lose to the Jets.
They did
So
lose to the Jets. You're right. My bad. Yeah.
it's all good. This team is so strange, so
Yeah.
weird.
Yeah.
But the one thing that they do well that we all know, and I highlighted it, and again, like I was never going to play Jamar Chase in a cash game lineup, uh, but I highlighted the fact that whoever plays man to man against the Bengals is an idiot, and they did that's what the Chiefs did all game long. They thrive on man to man coverage, and they have alpha receivers in Jamar Chase and T Higgins. Even Tyler Boyd can get his when the other two are occupied. So yeah, I mean he's just Jamar Chase continues to embarrass both of us, especially in his rookie
Yeah.
year. Yesterday, most receiving yards by a rookie in NFL history, most receiving yards in a single game this season, most receiving yards in Bengals history in a game.
Yeah.
And that's there's a lot of notable guys that were on that or were Bengals at one point. So yeah, I mean he's just insane. There's nothing else to say about it but
Mhm.
that.
Yeah, he's insane. I think we're finally seeing that like Joey Burrow could be the true franchise quarterback here and be a top guy. I mean, I feel like there was always those question marks after the surgery in his first season, but he's really shown up this year and he's played really well. And I mean, him and Jamar Chase have just been an instant connection, and so it'll be awesome to see them continue to play. But is this for the Chiefs? I'm kind of curious to hear your thoughts here because I think you've been higher on the Chiefs than I have, and it's benefited you well. They've definitely had a good year. Is this more on the Chiefs or more just the Bengals having one of those perfect games that you really can't stop from Jamar Chase?
I think that the Chiefs defense is going to be something that kills them in the playoffs. That's the first thing I want to say, but
Yeah.
I also want to say that I think it's just the Bengals time. I think it's the Bengals time to be an AFC North contender always, and I think that they will be for the next. I don't know. I don't want to put a cap on it, but I'll start with 5+ years. I think that they have one of the most elite skill player sets in the AFC, if not the entire NFL, and they're all extremely young. Outside of, I think Boyd is the oldest out of. I think Boyd's older than Mixon, but I remember Joe Mixon being even younger than people think that he is. I believe that Joe Mixon's like 26 or 27. So they have a very, very young. Yeah, Joe Mixon's 25 years old.
Insane.
So yeah, I mean, it's they have a series of extremely young people. Tyler Boyd, 27. That's still, frankly, a prime age. Even younger than I would. I don't know. I don't think he's in his prime necessarily anymore. But yeah, I mean, they have something, and they always just needed a defense, and they needed an offensive line, and they just needed a quarterback that didn't get hurt. And I think that
Mhm.
that's just a combination of things that finally came to place. I don't know if we give Zach Taylor enough credit. I feel like I still feel like I don't give him enough credit, so I don't know what you feel about that, but I think this is just a turning of the tides of a division, and I am not 100. Sean and I will definitely disagree on this because I know he backs Joe Burrow hard,
Yeah.
but I still think I back Justin Herbert more.
Wow. I think that's I mean like I don't know. You could get behind that for sure. I'd love to hear you two argue about that cuz I feel pretty 50-50 on it in all honesty. I feel like they're pretty close in terms of their talent. it's definitely an interesting take to have. I don't know. I just think this Chiefs team, and imagine like I just keep thinking about imagine if that O line gets any better. If that O line gets any better, then they have potential to be the number one team in the AFC and be at the top of the AFC for a long time.
Yeah, those two are going to definitely battle it out between him, Burrow, Mac Jones, and Justin Herbert and Patty. They're going to be pretty amazing. I think that the AFC is set up tremendously.
Yeah,
Obviously, can't forget about Lamar Jackson either. And if Tyler Huntley goes somewhere else, that could be something really cool too.
yeah, definitely for
Also,
sure.
yeah, comments in the chat. Who has more weapons, Burrow or Herbert? Because I think that Joe Burrow has
Oh,
more.
I think so too. But I think Herbert has a way better offensive line. Um, that offensive line definitely is key for that Bengals team. All right, let's keep talking about Week 17. Talk about the next game that you have on the docket. Cardinals beating the Cowboys in Dallas. Big win for that Cardinals team. That was on a tough stretch there. They lost 3 straight games. End up picking up a big win here against the Cowboys. What are your thoughts on this Cardinals team and their future in the playoffs?
The Cardinals are an even weirder team than the Bengals are, in my
Yeah,
opinion. So
seriously.
they have continued. Well, first of all, I'll give them credit. They fought through a bunch of injuries, and they were so patient with Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins. Unfortunately, it didn't work out for Hopkins, but they were very, very, very secure on their point to just keep Kyler out in games that he could have came back and played. When it didn't look like they kind of looked like they were a little bit shaky in the middle of the season. So after a couple of weird games, they lost to the Lions, they lost to the Rams, they even lost to the Colts on Christmas, and then they come back in and they beat the Cowboys on the road in Dallas. Fun fact: they put this on the game at the end of the game, and like during a bunch of times during the game. Kyler Murray's never lost in AT&T Stadium, and he's played there like 4 or 5 times, dating back to high school. So something about that place apparently he plays well in. They even did well without James Conner, which was something that I thought was going to be something that hindered them. But yeah, I don't know. It also feels like every single time the Cowboys are in the game of the week, it tends to disappoint. But this one
Yeah.
definitely shot out towards the end.
Yeah, it definitely did shoot out towards the end. I mean, the Cowboys really turned it on trying to get that win and just came up short, even though they scored 15 points in the fourth quarter. Really close game, really good game for the Cardinals to win. And how likely do you think it is? How much of a chance do you give this Cardinals team to be first in the West after next week?
Mhm. Who's their Week 18 opponent?
It is the. Hold on, I gotta find this now. The Seahawks.
Okay. Seahawks are another weird team, but
Yeah,
I think that the Cardinals should be able to get things done. The Seahawks will just try to play spoiler. Could be Russ's last game. Is it in Seattle?
it is not in Seattle. It is in
Okay.
Arizona.
That's right. He definitely okay. I think yeah. Russ commented that he might have played his last game in Seattle last yesterday. So
No.
that is certainly interesting. But yeah, they're gonna play spoilers. We'll see. You might get a little bit of a lesser opponent, but the Cardinals do play worse at home. That's something that I've noticed
Mhm.
over the past month or two. And yeah, they're gonna fight for because right now, I think that they have to. Who would they be up against? We're looking at the playoff pictures here, and we're about to cover those things in a second. But I guess I would have to see who would get who. That's kind of what game that everybody's playing right now. The Rams, because I think that the who wins the tiebreaker between the Rams and the Cardinals if they were to have a tie.
Um,
So I feel like they both have wins against each other.
yeah, so it goes down to divisional record. And divisional record is sorry, I'm looking this up as we speak. Right now Arizona might have they'll definitely have the divisional record if they end up tied because that would require the Rams to lose. And the Rams are 2 and 3 and 2 in the divisional and the Cardinals are 4-1. So,
Oh boy.
uh
Okay.
tiebreaker would go to the Cardinals if the Rams lost and the Cardinals won.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean the Cardinals definitely have an easier matchup than the Rams do this week.
Yeah.
I expect all starters to play outside of the Seahawks. And I mean, maybe the Seahawks do and just try to play spoiler. Who knows? But yeah, I think for Seattle, it's basically whoever's close to getting incentives and bonuses stat wise will play. And then they probably just end their season. But I'm very interested to see what happens. And you can't forget about the Cowboys in this situation either because they kind of get tossed around depending on who wins what, and they just lost to the Cardinals yesterday.
Well, if the Cardinals do lose next week, that's who they face most likely is going to be the Cowboys in the first round. So that would definitely be interesting to see a rematch there.
Mm. It would be. I like that. Okay,
I
cool.
like that too.
Let's just move on right away to this playoff picture.
Yeah,
We did see Green Bay win and clinch the NFC's number one seed yesterday. Uh, that's going to be locked up. You saw the Bucks. I keep thinking they lost, but they definitely won.
yeah,
So they climbed up. They're sitting in the number three spot. Rams won as well. Number two spot. Both of those teams looked really shaky yesterday. Cowboys obviously lost. Cardinals won. Eagles 9-7. Josh, the
yeah,
Eagles are one seed ahead. Well, actually, they technically have the 49ers as the sixth seed, um, and the Eagles as the seventh seed. I think that all that's in flux because of the NFC West right
yeah.
now. So the Eagles clinched the playoffs. So if the Niners lose, are they knocked out, or do they need the Saints to lose too?
I think they need the Saints to lose, or I don't know. I have no clue what the playoff picture looks like for the 49ers. I have no clue because I see
Yeah,
New
it
Orleans
looks.
is at 8-8 right now. So like I feel like New Orleans probably needs to lose.
Yeah, it looks like there's seven total spots, right? Like I'm. That's
Yeah.
that's what the new rule is. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
So the Niners aren't clinched yet, but the Eagles are. And the Saints are the only team that's on the bubble that's not eliminated yet.
What a
So it's
mess.
basically Saints Niners. That's kind of what needs to be decided this week for the NFC. The AFC is much more disastrous. We'll talk about that in a second, but the Saints will get a matchup against the Falcons on Sunday. So I mean Falcons nothing to play for. They just got eliminated. Uh, they played a pretty solid game against the Bills, and I mean, they lasted about three quarters, but very solid game on the road there. Falcons host the Saints. Obviously, if you're a Niners fan, you're rooting for the Falcons, but you also need to take care of business against the Rams. If I
Yeah.
felt like it just feels like the Niners had a better spot than this. Maybe I'm
Yeah,
wrong.
it does feel like it, but they don't, and that's how top loaded the NFC is, with the Cardinals being that fifth team that has double digit wins. Like having those five double digit wins teams, I think makes you think the Niners have a better spot than they do. And it's going to be down to the wire for the 49ers and for that New Orleans team. It's going to be I think Niners need to pick up a win or they get in if New Orleans loses too, but it's going to be close deciding that last spot. I'm excited to talk about the AFC because I paid a lot of attention to the NFC and to the 49ers. I haven't paid much attention to the AFC over the past week. So I'm excited for you to break this down for me because I know you said it's chaos.
It is chaos, and a lot of that starts tonight. We have Monday Night Football with the Steelers and the Browns. Big Ben announced that it's not official, but he said over the weekend that this is possibly his last game at Heinz. And I think that that's probably going to reign true. I do think he's probably going to retire next year. I just think that the Steelers are probably ready to move on, and I think he is as well. So right now they are the last seed that's on the bubble, number 11. They are alive because the Ravens lost yesterday, and because the Browns are in their division and they're about to face off. So the Steelers need the most help out of any team in the NFL at the moment, uh, and they really put themselves in a tight spot, especially with the Raiders beating the Colts yesterday, which was one of the strangest games on the Sunday card. That was a really weird game, and the Raiders, fighting elimination, were able to beat the Colts even despite Jonathan Taylor going up for 100 yards again. So the Ravens, as much as we thought that they were done, they are still alive. So I'm looking at I mean, I think the Steelers win tonight. The Browns technically got eliminated yesterday. Uh, so I'm interested to see where or what kind of approach they take. If I'm a Browns player, personnel, coach, whatever, you're not taking this game off. I think that
Yeah.
you would want nothing more than to ruin the Steelers' chances of making the playoffs at this point, since you're already eliminated. Maybe I'm off on that, but I think that anybody who plays the game to that level at that point, um, I think that there's something there. So I think that the Browns won't take off tonight. Again, maybe I'm wrong in that, but yeah, they can definitely play spoilers and take out the Steelers tonight. But I do think Pittsburgh comes through at home. So I mean, I don't know. It would seem like I know that Big Ben's definitely washed in his own right, but there's something special about him possibly playing this last game here in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, no, you could see him put up a really big game, or you could at least see the guys around him putting up really big efforts to make sure he has a big game in his possible last game at Heinz Field. So that's definitely going to be a really, really good game for Monday Night Football and should be a lot of fun to watch. And just this tie for six right now with the Colts, the Chargers, and the Raiders is they're all at 9-7. It's pretty close over here. So the AFC definitely is going to be a fun division to watch in the last week. I'm curious, what implications do we have with those Week 18 opponents for those teams? Do you know? Are they easy opponents? Oh, the Chargers and the Raiders face off against each other. I think I remember you saying that.
Yeah. So, okay, there's six teams that are, or five teams that have clinched the playoffs. Titans, they clinched the AFC South with a win, big win over the Dolphins. I believe the Dolphins got eliminated because of that.
Yes.
They did. Okay. So, Chiefs, um, clinched the division, but they still would need to fight for that second spot. And I think that the Bengals could have enough um, to take that, but we'll see. The Bills clinched a spot. The Patriots clinched a spot. So the people or the teams that are fighting um, are basically all either AFC West or AFC North. And the Colts are the only team. Unfortunately, they could have clinched yesterday, but they decided to lose against the Raiders. So Chargers do have an interesting matchup. Also, I think the Chiefs should be just fine. They actually could get the number one seed. They play the Broncos on next Saturday. By the way, NFL flexed a couple games to Saturday, this Saturday, instead of getting all 16 games on Sunday.
Uh,
So that is the thing. Chargers week 18 is going to be, I believe that it is the Raiders.
yes, it
Um,
is.
yeah, it is. So Raiders fighting for the playoff lives. Same thing with the Chargers. That's a weird because I feel like there are two very, very different teams, but apparently they are not, and they have the same record. So,
Yeah.
excuse me. But that's kind of where that one goes. The Ravens. We're just gonna keep pulling up these things because there's a lot to work through here.
Yeah,
Um, tie-breaking
seriously.
tie-breaking procedures are gonna be definitely used. Let's see. We have. Oh, by the way, Kai told us that there are four different outcomes for the San Francisco 49ers.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
and that's like Minnesota losing last night helps them because they got eliminated. So San Francisco wins, the 49ers are the number 6 seed. That's the first thing.
Uh-huh.
If San Francisco loses and New Orleans loses and Philly loses, then the Niners are the 6 seed still. So there's a way that if you lose, you just need the other two teams to lose.
Uh-huh.
If the Niners lose and then New Orleans loses and Philly wins, the Niners are still the 7 seed. And if the Niners lose and New Orleans wins, the Niners are out of the playoffs. So those
Gotcha.
are all the four situations.
Okay.
Um, so you
Just a
basically
mess.
just need to be an Eagles fan and a New Orleans fan, just in case.
Good times. Yeah, it should be a fun last weekend, man. I'm excited. I think this will be really good for the playoff picture and getting everything set up will be really nice for the playoffs. But yeah, definitely seems like the AFC side is more chaotic and there's definitely a lot going on there. Is there anything else that you want to talk about with Week 17 football? If not, then we can talk a little bit about the bowl games that have been going on.
The last thing that I'll say is that I want to hear, eventually at some point, want to hear what Kai thinks about the Eagles right now because like you're sort of happy, but you're also not happy.
Yeah.
Uh, they're 9-7, and they escaped what was honestly almost an embarrassing game against Washington, um, who basically didn't have anybody, and Antonio Gibson was out, and yeah, I don't know, just a bunch of stuff, random stuff. Also, the weirdest thing that happened outside of the Antonio Brown thing was by far Jalen Hurts walking into the tunnel and then the tunnel collapsing and a bunch of fans falling into the tunnle. I don't know
Oh
if you
my
saw that,
gosh. I did not see
but yeah,
this. I will
yeah,
have to look
he
this up
was
after the show though. It sounds
he was basically like doing the thing, like high fiving the fans, and
uh-huh.
then just a chunk of the stadium just like fell apart,
Oh my god.
and a bunch of fans just like fell into the tunnel
Oh
as he was
geez.
walking out of it. So that was the strangest thing outside of the Brown stuff.
Yeah, that definitely seems worthy of looking up, and probably would be around a lot more if the Brown thing didn't happen. But all right, Week 17 has been recapped. So let's talk about some of these bowl games because I absolutely love the bowl games. So I know you have Alabama steamrolling Cincy here first, but I'm gonna save that for later. I want to talk about this
Yeah,
Ohio State game because this Ohio State game was the most entertaining game of college football I think I have watched all season long. I mean, it just kept going back and forth, and Ninjigba was absolutely incredible, or Smith Ninjigba was absolutely incredible. Just an absolutely insane game, and I got to watch this game while on the plane, and it was perfect. I got to watch the whole second half on the plane, and it was a really really good game to watch.
yeah. This was one of the ones like I was trying to follow along and do a bunch of other stuff at the same time. I wasn't really interested in watching Ohio State, so I was happy that they were down early, and I was like, of course, they're frauds, like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Um, so it was that was definitely fun for me early on, and then I looked up and I was like, oh, okay, well, my description in this rundown here is they Undertakered them, which if
Yeah.
you don't know what that means, then just type in Undertaker on your in your gifts section, you'll know what I mean there. But yeah, insane second half. Uh, Honestly, this game was more exciting than all of the college football playoff stuff and most of the other bowl games. There were a couple others that were like this, but this one, I mean, when you have almost 100 combined points, it was a lot of fun to watch.
It was a lot of fun to watch, man. Like I think that especially with Ohio State not having like the full like Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave both
Yeah,
sitting for this
insane.
game, you really saw how good this Ohio I think that at the end of the day is the lesson you take is that Ohio State and CJ Stroud could be really, really, really good next year. And same with Jackson Smith Ninjigba, because he was phenomenal.
I haven't had time to actually update the numbers for fantasy with PPR scoring,
Oh my
but
goodness.
I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah.
Um, I'm trying to do the math in my head. By the way, CJ Stroud didn't. For as much shit as we gave him the entire season, he balled out, and
Yeah.
he only had one bad pass, 37 for 46, or 573 and six touchdowns.
Yeah.
That yeah, I'm doing the quick math on that one because I want to figure that one out first. I already know Smith and Jigba is over 60 DraftKings points,
Oh
but
yeah.
where we're because it's close to Jamar Chase stat line, if not better than yesterday. So let's see, 0.25 times 573. That's a lot. And yeah, okay. Wow. He has like over 45. Well, like 50.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Doesn't surprise me, man. He had an absolutely insane day. And like it wasn't just his wide receivers showing out. He made a lot of throws that I think you wouldn't expect to see from him, considering how much and I feel bad, you're right. We have shit on him a lot, but he definitely showed up and he showed why, next year he has the potential to be one of those top guys. I think coming off the draft board. Is he a freshman or a sophomore?
Stroud, I think he's a freshman.
Yeah, okay. So we still have to he still gets 2 more years of college, and if that's the case, I mean, you could see him get hyped up a lot as a prospect as long as he made a few bad errors in that game. As long as he cleans up some stuff, which I'm sure he will. It's that Ohio State team is going to be in good hands.
Yeah, Smith and Jigba had 72 DraftKings points.
Insane. Just insane. And like Marvin Harrison Jr. too. He went insane as
Yeah.
well.
Yep.
He had 3 touchdowns, I think, which is just crazy.
Yep.
His route running was insane. So there was definitely some concerns on the defensive side of things, but like offense was great on both teams.
Can you say we can't say hands down because it's not fair because we don't usually get the exposure of these kinds of players like other teams might in this situation, but it was a unique situation where they already had a couple starters who are going to be draft picks, um, possibly in the first round, if not second round, for Ohio State. Can we say or make an argument that this is the deepest wide receiver class in a specific team ever?
I think so. I don't think you have much of an argument there. I mean, and like I feel like Julian Fleming can be really good too. He did a little bit in this game, but like the fact that Julian Fleming wasn't as involved as I thought he was going to be, like this team has a really good wide receiver class, and even with Olave and Wilson leaving, who are, they're probably both of them are probably getting drafted in the first 2 rounds. This team is still going to be loaded at wide receiver.
Right. That's my whole. I mean, like, yeah, it's just when you have so many guys that just sit out because they're so good, they don't want to kind of like, I don't know. I'm hit or miss on the whole uh playing in the bowl game type of thing if you're a draft pick. So I don't know. I'm on both sides of it because on one hand, like, yes, we still got the excitement from the Ohio State side, but we also did lose Matt Corral. So like
Ugh,
it's kind of iffy there,
no.
which we'll talk about Matt Corral in a second. But give credit to Utah. People definitely underestimated them.
Yeah.
Uh, they showed up, and then just outside of some unreal heroics from Ohio State, they played a very good game.
Yeah, I mean their quarterback, the backup quarterback that came in the fourth quarter. I mean, talk about poised to lead your team down the field, being a backup QB who hasn't thrown a pass so far this year and end up
Yep.
leading them to a touchdown drive. I mean, it was Utah definitely got not talked about enough coming up to this game, but they fought hard. I feel like it's a completely different game if you have their healthy starting quarterback in when he went out when they were third and 17 or second and 17 or whatever.
Yeah, it is, and it's also and like I know like they're 10-4, so people aren't gonna say that well, whatever. I mean, they're probably not as good as other teams, but they did beat the team that beat Ohio State to get there. So Oregon beat Ohio State earlier in the year. Utah beat Oregon. So
You know.
I mean, it's just it is what it is. Ohio State completes the circle of life there and takes them out. Anyway, let's talk about Coral, even though I don't really want to, but we can talk about the injury there and why sometimes this works, it backfires the wrong way. Unfortunate for Coral. What does this do for him for the
Oh,
draft?
I don't know. I saw that Todd Bowles put him down as his third QB, and I feel like that was pretty accurate when it happened. That was before the bowl game. So, like, if you had him as your third QB, you obviously have Pickett ahead of him. I'm curious who the second QB was on that list, but like,
Probably Malik. Malik.
probably Malik Cunningham, yeah. And I just don't know how much farther you can slide him down because I think that see Kai is saying it's Corral, not Coral. We're saying it wrong.
Sorry.
So
Sorry.
Matt Matt Corral. It's I don't know. I think that this definitely hits. I don't know. Do we have like a clear designation of what that injury was exactly, or are we still up in the air on that?
I think that they'll probably keep that pretty close to the chest, but I'll see. I didn't like look after. I just know that he apparently it's just a bad ankle sprain.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good. At least it's not. I mean, it looked like something serious beforehand when it actually happened because I watched this whole game. Fun fact: I had a parlay of all 5 of the games, and I had won every game that day except for this last one, and I bet on Ole Miss, and that was a plus 1,400 parlay down the drain there. But yeah, it's certainly interesting with Matt Corral, and I man, like it would have been a completely different game if he stayed in, but he wasn't playing that well regardless.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, people thought that it was like the big deal surrounding all of it was because he was carted off the field,
Yeah.
and yeah, apparently, as of yesterday, they said that um, he got very very lucky, and all the X-rays returned negative, and he basically just has a really bad ankle sprain. So I don't think that this affects really anything. Um, but yeah, he wasn't playing the greatest either
No.
before that.
No, I mean the second play of the game, he threw that interception, and it wasn't even that great of a throw. It was kind of what we've seen from him a lot, where he either makes really good decisions or really bad decisions. There's really no in between with him. So, Luke Altmaier, the guy who came into for him, did you get to watch like him play? Because I got to watch part of this game, and Luke Altmaier looked good on some things.
I did not. That was pretty much during the time that I was doing a bunch of stuff for the NFL
No.
slate. So I just saw the news and I was like, oh, that sucks.
Yeah, well, Luke Altmaier did not look bad. I would not be surprised. I know their Ole Miss is looking in the transfer portal for their next QB after Matt Corral, but I think that Luke Altmaier could be a big thing next season. He definitely has some running abilities. He definitely knows how to throw the deep ball. So it could be interesting to see who this QB is going to be for Ole Miss.
Yeah, I'm excited to see it. Another, you know, I would say that the win for Baylor is obviously shadowed by the injury, but were a team that I think deserved to be up where they were. Let's talk about like the 4, 5, 6, and 7 here, including Ole Miss. Like we we haven't really talked about Notre Dame yet either, and how they uh, should have sealed the win but didn't. So
Yeah.
like if you're OK State, by the way, I think that something that Kai brought up on Saturday, I think it was either Friday or Saturday. He brought up the fact that national TV got the graphic wrong. I don't know if you saw that graphic. I
Oh,
think you
I
might have
did
been
see
in the
this.
chat.
Yeah, I was in there with
Yeah,
you guys.
they put Oklahoma against Notre Dame and not OK
Oh,
State, and I
oh
think
no.
that really pissed them off. So, uh, big win for OK State. What do you think about like these teams looking back at the weekend now, and would you have rather seen any of these teams take Cincinnati's spot?
Oh, I feel like you definitely, I mean, like everyone's going to make a case for these two teams, right? I feel like these two teams definitely both had their chance to be in that number 4 spot. It was hard to deny Cincinnati, and obviously hindsight's 2020, but like that was a 13-0 team. Yes, they didn't show up against Alabama, but it was a 13-0 team. But I don't know. Oklahoma State and Notre Dame definitely put on a show and put up reasons why they probably could have been in there potentially.
Yeah, that's. I mean, I don't know. Again, like yeah, like you said, it's hard. Hindsight's always 2020 there. So I don't know. It's hard to make any kind of case for it. So the one thing that I was surprised about was Notre Dame's complete implosion at the end of the game. You might have had. It might have been different if they actually had their head coach coaching
Yeah,
at the end of the
seriously,
game. Though.
right? Yeah, it definitely
Yeah.
could have been different if you had Brian Kelly on the sideline, but you sadly did not. So OK State end up able to win that back and forth matchup. Let's talk about the college football playoff bowl games because these two weren't nearly as good as these other ones. Alabama steamrolled Cincy, just like you said here. And I think you make an interesting point. Is everything outside of the SEC irrelevant? It definitely feels like it after that game. And you can even say more so once you move to the next game with Georgia just putting on a show against Michigan.
Right. And like I know that Big Ten there's a lot of schools and Power Five conferences that have talent. It's just like this year specifically, just not matched. It really just isn't.
No, it's not
And
close.
and I mean if you're Cincinnati, you're obviously grateful to be in the situation that you are. But yeah, at the same time, it was a complete and utter shit show. So happy New Year, Cincinnati.
Happy New Year,
Like
Cincinnati,
imagine
for sure.
you're getting flown in, then you get destroyed by Alabama. Like it was never close.
No,
It was never close.
no.
Yeah, and then you have to spend like you can't fly out that night. You just have to like spend. This was on New Year's Eve too, so it wasn't even on New Year's Day, and you're just like, woo, all right.
Bro, we can feel bad for Cincinnati all you want. Cincinnati asked for it. Like Cincinnati wanted Bama. They said this several times how they wanted to face off against Bama, and it was never going to work out. I was foolish thinking it was because I was hoping Cincinnati would have some chance, but it just everything, like you said, everything outside of the SEC feels irrelevant this year.
Yeah, I bet the over of this game, and I felt pretty good about it because I up to that point, Cincinnati had been putting up monster scores on everybody. I thought at least that they would put up 20 points. Like
No,
that's all I was asking for because I knew Bama was going to put up like as long as they were pushed a little bit, or as long as something happened in the game where Nick Saban went ballistic and they were like, "All right, we got to put up 40 points now. They can't embarrass us like this." But it never happened, and they controlled the clock and they controlled the game. And Bryce Young put up his like worst stat line of the entire season.
Yeah, and Brian Robinson put up his best stat line of the whole
Yeah.
season too.
Yep.
I don't know how many rushing attempts, but I know he cleared 200 yards. So he just had a, and I mean that's what it came down to. Like I remember us talking about it in the chat that day as the game was going on. Like clearly Alabama's size advantage was just unfair and showed why SEC recruiting is ridiculous. Is ridiculous. Nick Saban recruiting is ridiculous.
Yep. And they really didn't have to do anything in the passing game at all. Like, I don't know. Jameson Williams had 7 for 62.
No.
Like that's whatever. Bolden did impress in the wake of there. But yeah, I don't know. It was never really a competition, and it was actually kind of boring.
Yeah, it was kind of a boring game. I completely agree. And you can say the same about Georgia outclassing Michigan. It just like it just looked unfair. It just looked completely unfair. Georgia just steamrolled here, and everything worked out. Especially that trick pass that they had. I think it was at the end of the first quarter, beginning of the second quarter, where their running back threw a touchdown. I mean, it's hard to compete with that Georgia team, no matter what. They're a tough team for sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I was not a fan of getting the rematch, but maybe it's for the best.
Yeah,
maybe it
maybe it is.
maybe it really is.
For
I don't know.
viewership purpose, maybe it is.
It feels like this is a spot where Alabama just destroys Georgia again. But maybe I'm wrong.
Georgia or Alabama is 7-1 against Georgia since the start of the college football playoffs. So take that for what it's worth. But I think I don't know. BetOnline doesn't agree with us. And shout
I
out
know.
to our
I know.
sponsors over at BetOnline. But I think the BetOnline odds are just like I don't know if anyone else feels this way. They're a little baffling to me. The fact that isn't Bama the underdog right now?
They are.
Yeah, so
They're 3 points.
like it feels super trappy to bet Bama +3, but like that definitely feels like the right side.
I hope Georgia proves me wrong. I don't really know what side to lean on, but right now I feel like it just feels like Alabama is the better team at this point.
It does. It truly does. And so I'm excited for that game. We have a week until that game, and it's going to be one of the best games because, or hopefully, it's going to be one of the best games. Hopefully, we don't have a blowout in the championship game because that would be pretty sad to
Yep.
have a blowout in the championship game and have all those bowl games be so amazing.
Yep, I agree. We've had a lot of blowouts in the championship game over the past 5 years, so
Yeah,
hopefully this isn't one of them. The last game that I want to cover, and then I know we have to move on. But did you watch any of the Kentucky Iowa game?
I did not get to watch any of the Kentucky Iowa game,
It
but
it was close throughout the entire thing. A lot of fourth quarter heroics. Last touchdown came from Chris Rodriguez, who I believe finishes his career off with that game-winning touchdown, game-winning drive. It was really nice. Uh, Wandale Robinson looked incredible, 10 for 170. Yeah, it was just awesome, and I think that Iowa made a lot of mistakes, but I think that yeah, I mean the main story here is Chris Rodriguez in that last drive.
yeah, I mean I've touted Chris Rodriguez a lot. I've touted this Kentucky team a lot too. So like I was high on this Kentucky team and I'm not surprised. Well, I guess I am surprised. I saw it was super close. That's about all I saw of this game. And I'm sure it would have been a good one to watch, just wasn't able to myself.
Yep, no, Iowa had the lead late, and then Kentucky scored within like 2 or 3 minutes of the fourth quarter expiring. So Iowa did get one last shot. I think he was Will Levis was picked, and then the game was over. So uh, cool for Kentucky 25 seed. Iowa was a really good team until they kind of fell apart towards the end.
Yeah. Yeah, they definitely were a pretty good team until they fell apart. So it's going to be interesting to see what that team could do next year. It's going to be interesting to see if Kentucky can continue their run. I mean, I'm pretty sure they have Wandale Robinson next year, and I've always thought that Wandale is like a super talent, and this Kentucky team having him, I think next year will be a really good thing as well.
Agreed. All right, let's move on and talk about some NBA stuff.
Yeah.
Both of us kind of were like, I hardly watched it all this weekend because of all the football stuff going on, but obviously I was providing GPPs for the entire week before.
Yeah, definitely must have been fun to provide GPVs for the last week because I know it was a mess, man. I That's
It was a
about all
mess.
I heard. I saw I heard about Cleveland guards being a mess. I heard about COVID stuff just throwing a wrench in everything. Like
Yep.
I heard it was a little bit disastrous.
Yeah. The week started off. I'll take you kind of chronologically here. This is the best I can.
Okay.
The week started off with Cleveland being super chalk everywhere, and we knew that Garland was out, and Sean didn't. He's gonna like he was so upset the next morning. I called him when we talked about it, but he basically pivoted off of Ricky Rubio, who was uber chalk, with Tobias and Tobias Harris, and played a couple other guys that I honestly don't remember at this point anymore. The chat probably knows because we all feel the same on this. But Ricky Rubio, Josh went for 70 FanDuel points in 3.5 quarters. And then entering the fourth quarter, Cleveland's up the whole time. He tears his ACL
Oh
and gets
my
carted off.
goodness.
So Ricky
What?
Rubio gone. Uh, yeah, so it's a disaster right now in Cleveland, which then led to the trade and signing of Rajon Rondo from the
Yep.
Lakers. So now Rondo's on Cleveland. Yeah, disaster. So anyway, yeah, that's basically how the week started, and then from there it just continued to get crazier and crazier. Uh, Greg Monroe was relevant. Mario Chalmers is back in the NBA.
Ugh.
Uh, I don't even know. Like it just keeps going. Corey Kispert was chalk for like 3 days. Man, I don't even know. Like it just continues. And at the end of the day, yeah, it was a mess. Basically, Sean is just like on Thursday. Like it, I think this still reigns true. So maybe he'll talk about it a little bit more today. But he did have a couple of nice. I know yesterday was nice on Sunday. So anyway, he basically said that like NBA's DFS isn't fun right now, and that's kind of the moral of what last week was. So I don't know if that continues because the CDC. Were you around for this enough to know that the CDC took? They basically said it's not 10-day quarantine anymore or
Nope.
whatever. It's only 5 days.
Yeah,
So uh,
that happened the day that I tested positive. So like I am
okay,
because I had to follow those CDC guidelines. So I'm all
okay,
up to date on it.
sweet. Okay, so I mean, I don't think that stops anything with the NBA as of right now. I think we're just still fighting through this wave of stuff. Things will normalize eventually when players will actually like when I think there's like 50 to 60 NBA players right now that should not be in the league, and that will eventually normalize as these 10-day contracts expire and the G League starts to kind of formulate and funnel out. So I don't think that this week is the week for that. I think we still have another week or two in our under ourselves with all of this stuff, but it's going to be very interesting to see because we talked about it all year, but we didn't know it was going to get this bad. So, yeah, it's basically like you can do all the research you want in the world, but at the end of the day, some G League or 10-day contract guy can just come in and play 25, 30 minutes and go bananas, and you know, have never heard of him before. So, that's just kind of the way things are going right now, especially with the teams that are already injured on top of COVID. So we'll see how it goes. But the one thing is for sure, uh, things are. I continue to like it's at the point of no return for this Bulls thing with me, and DeMar DeRozan continues to shove it in my face.
Yeah.
Back to back game winning, uh, game winning shots over the weekend for this Bulls squad. So I don't know what to say anymore. They're the number one team in the Eastern Conference, and there's a couple of teams in the West that are better record wise, but this Bulls team continues to fight through things because they've been without Lonzo Ball and Alex Caruso for a while now.
Yeah, do you know the last person to hit back-to-back game winners? I'm curious to see if you know this. I found out this tidbit on it was Baltimore local news last or yesterday before my plane took off is when I found this out. But do you know who the last player to do it was?
Is it a dumb answer or a
No, it's
star
not a
answer?
dumb answer. It's just a really long time ago.
Oh, I don't know. Larry Bird.
Boom. Larry Bird was the last one to do it. But
Hey,
that's a pretty sick guess right there. I'm really shocked. But yeah, Larry Bird was the last player to hit back-to-back game winners. So DeMar really putting on a show in Chicago, and it'll be interesting, man. They really are making you eat your words, and we're gonna have to see how it plays out throughout the rest of the year. I saw the fact that Josh Giddey is now the youngest player to ever get a triple double. I saw he also had a stat line earlier last week where he had 0 points, 10 rebounds, and 10 assists.
yeah,
So it's
yep.
truly been the wave of Josh Giddey, and I've been on this kid forever, so I'm excited about it.
Yeah, you've been calling this and touting this for a very long time. So
Yeah.
people are starting to take notice. He actually just came back from a huge COVID stint that he was out for like a week and a half too. So yeah, I mean he's great. I think that he what was the comparison that we were giving him? Like I don't remember, but I think I said like a he has a Dirk type of
Yeah.
body, so like that's kind of like the closest thing. I don't know, it's kind of weird, but I think he's coming into his own. He's going to be incredible to watch, and I think if you're OKC, you really have to consider what you're going to do with him long term.
Yeah, it's one of those exciting pieces that they got that I think will be a future. I don't know if he'll be like all-star starter type of player, but I feel like later down the road you could see him be an all-star, and so he's going to be a very talented piece for that Thunder team. I want to talk about the Rockets. More importantly, I want to know if you got Sean's opinion on this whole thing with
Nope,
KPJ
not yet.
leaving and Christian Wood deciding not to play in the second half. Like I heard this was a full mess.
Yeah, he. So this happened over the weekend, so we haven't had a chance to
Okay.
talk about it yet. I believe it happened Saturday night. Maybe I'm wrong, chat, but let me know. Could have been. Yeah, it was definitely Saturday night. So yeah, basically Kevin Porter and had an altercation with the coaching staff and mainly assistant coach John Lucas. Apparently, he threw something in the locker room and then left the arena at halftime for whatever reason. Uh, Definitely, like I don't know what's going on with these players. I think they can just leave games and quit on their
Yeah.
teams, but
Yeah.
I don't know. It's been a maybe it's just a big storm of things, but
Yeah.
he obviously has been it's been quiet, but I think that like looking back at it now, you're like, okay, the franchise has been very, very careful with Kevin Porter and Jalen Green both. Like they've even gotten to the point where last week they both were clear to play, but they were kept out. Um, they're saying it's conditioning, but I think that they also were just doing injury management things. So they're, I mean, I don't know. Like I think that they understand the long term play of all this, but at the same time, they're two young players and they just want to play. I think, and maybe I'm wrong on that, but this definitely affected Christian Wood as well, who refused to check in during the second half, even though Silas said that it was his decision, like Silas's decision to not play Wood. But apparently, it came out that Christian Wood made the comment that he didn't want to play anymore.
Yeah, I didn't I just saw the headlines of it. Like Bleacher Report put out a few notifications on it, but I cannot wait to get his opinion on all this this week or today during the NBA podcast because man, like I mean we knew that KPJ had these issues in Cleveland as well. Didn't he throw something at a teammate in Cleveland when he was there before he got released?
Yeah, he did. I forgot about that. That's
Yeah,
right.
so like we've seen this before from Kate. We've always known he's had like a bit of a problem with coaching staffs and just being I'm not going to say being a good teammate. I don't want to accuse him. We don't know everything that happened in the situation, but like
He threw food in the locker room.
okay, so I thought he threw food. I don't know why I
Yeah.
remember someone saying it was pizza, but that might be just my memory. That might not be true fully, but I remember that happening in Cleveland. He ends up getting cut after that or waived after that, and then Houston picked him up, and that's why Houston has him. And so I'm curious to see what Houston does next because I don't know. This was one of the promising pieces of this team, and to just see him go is definitely going to be interesting.
Yeah, that was I forgot all about that. That happened last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, apparently also Christian Wood frustration coming from him too. He came off the bench to start that game on Saturday because he had a previous violation earlier in the week. What for whatever reason, like maybe he didn't show up to practice on time or something happened, but he didn't start in that game, so he was already heated. And then yeah, a terrible, terrible first half for that Rockets team. Basically started all this, and yeah, it was a very interesting situation because no, we haven't gotten Sean's opinion on this, so we'll have to get it on today's podcast because
Definitely
did
will.
not talk to him yesterday about it.
Yeah, definitely going to be interesting to see what Sean thinks about it. All right, last thing here before we get off of the NBA topic, Josh's take, my take on LeBron's hot stretch, because man, has he been on fire without Anthony Davis on the floor? I saw Sean swap him out because I tried to pay attention to everything that went on company wise. I think this was on Friday when he swapped him out, and I was like, oh man, that sucks because he's going to go off tonight. And in fact, he did go off. He went insane in the last game. He's been going insane over the past week. And it's insane that this guy is what he's 38 years old now, 37 years old, something around.
37.
Yeah, just
Yep.
turned 37. And he's just absolutely balling out here.
Right. And he has to because this team has no other shot
Yeah.
than to just put the ball in his hands right now and let them figure out what's going on with their team. So, yeah, he basically he's been playing center the entire last week, by the way,
Yes, I
or
saw
like
that.
reported as the center.
Yeah.
And it's 29 minutes on New Year's Eve, like, yeah, 43, 14, and 4, like unreal numbers. The usage rates through the roof, and that's tough to say for LeBron James anyway. So, yeah, he's going to continue to ball out. The next game that the Lakers have is on Tuesday night against the Kings. So, good luck trying to fade him there.
Yeah, good luck trying to fade him anywhere up and coming because like against the Kings, he goes against the Hawks after that, then the Grizzlies and the King. Like he has a string of really easy matchups up until he gets to face off against Utah in the middle of the month. It's gonna be the LeBron James show until Anthony Davis does come back.
Yeah, what's the timeline on that again? We're already like a couple weeks through it.
Yeah, I want to say it was like 4 to 6 weeks, as long as how
Uh,
long
with
the injury is gonna
yeah,
take.
with him, it's probably like at least 2 months minimum.
Yeah,
So
yeah, it probably is. You're not wrong there. So, it's going to be a long time for LeBron James to just hold down the fort, but he's clearly balling out for that team, and that was a good win against the Timberwolves over the weekend. Definitely a good win there, and a big win against the Trailblazers earlier. So, I'm excited for tomorrow's hot and cold, or not hot and cold segment, but rating segment for some of these teams to kind of get refreshed on everything. But until then, we are moving on to our last topic of the day, which is the NHL resuming play. NHL, they decided to pull out of the Winter Olympics to make up for all the games in the middle of February. And you had the Winter Classic, which was really interesting to watch. I know it was very, very cold at that Winter Classic.
yeah, it was. So NHL segment is our way of doing something new for 2022, at least until we either forget or we can't do it anymore.
Yeah,
So that's our resolution for the new year on this show is
there you
trying to
go.
get the NHL involved. So I believe that they missed or postponed 70 games in December,
Wow.
and it seems like a lot. And I mean, obviously, it is a lot of games, but they had luckily a 3 week stretch for the Winter Olympics that um, they decided to pull out of. And since the NHL has rights on all of their players, none of those players can play in the Olympics on their respective countries. So, what they'll be doing is they'll be making up a couple games a day throughout February, 3 or 4 games a day, from what I've seen and heard. So, they got lucky in that. You kind of wish that the NBA had that buffer, but they do
Yeah,
not
seriously.
because they're not a winter sport. So, um, that's always weird to me, right? Like, why is the NBA not considered a winter Olympic sport? But anyway, well, it's another topic for another day. So,
Yeah.
uh, yeah, that's we'll be talking about the NHL here. Neither of us are very versed in it, so it's going to
No.
be a learning experience for both of us. But Hockey Mike continues to crush. And the last thing that I wanted to lead off of the segment with was that the only thing that could stop Hockey Mike in DFS was the NHL actually not playing games.
Yeah, they had to stop it. He was just too hot. They were like, all right, we got to stop the NHL. This Hockey Mike guy is just doing too damn well at DFS right now, so we got to stop everything. Um, But yeah, I'm so the Winter Classic. They have a stadium series that goes through Nashville in February that where they play a game outside at the Nissan Stadium,
Okay.
and I'm thinking about getting tickets now if we're gonna be on the NHL grind here on the morning after show. Like I feel like I had to be a dedicated fan and go to that game. I hope it's cold enough, man. It was 70 on Christmas Day here in Nashville, so like I hope it's cold enough on that February day that they'll be able to play outside.
Jeez. It was 6 degrees this morning, by the way,
Oh
here.
well, so that's the funny thing. It snowed on Christmas, right? It was 70 degrees on Christmas. It snowed last night. There's snow on the ground today. So like it just shows how crazy Nashville weather is. We had a winter warning yesterday, and we had tornado watch. Yeah, tornado watches yesterday too in Nashville. So like it was just a hectic day for weather, and it's been a hectic last few weeks for weather in Nashville.
Yeah, it feels like the whole country, in
Yeah,
fact.
it
So,
does.
anyway, so one thing we forgot to mention, uh, that obviously needs to be mentioned really quickly. Shout out to John Madden. Very sad news.
Yes.
That happened midweek. It actually happened like right before, was it Thursday? Yeah, something Wednesday or Thursday of last week. So, yep. Obviously, you guys saw that all over all weekend long. So, shout out to that. But yeah, I think we're done for the day. Outside of making some bets, it's back to the grind.
Ooh.
I've had a pretty rough stretch.
That's
I
funny because I've had a great stretch recently. Like when I was sick and I was betting on some things here and there, I was doing fantastic. So, interesting to see that we're on different ends of the spectrum here.
Yeah, I missed both of my college football playoff picks.
Oh no.
Um, it was bad, but then I doubled down on the Packers spread last night, and I also Anthony, shout out to Anthony. He put out a tweet that said the Packers are now 23-point favorites live, and so I bet that, and I won too.
There you go. Beautiful. You love to see it. Yeah, Packers. I wish I bet on the Packers spread last night. I didn't get the chance to, but I definitely wish I did because they did go insane. All right. You have a few places that you can pick from for your bet for underdog mentality. You can go to football, or you can talk a little bit about basketball. I'm sure betting on NBA basketball has been just the worst thing over the past week. And I put a bet out on Friday with I think it was the Cavs and the Lakers parlayed together.
Yeah,
Cavs were ahead by like 15 throughout the whole game, and then Atlanta just stormed back in the fourth quarter, and I lost that. And Cavs lost by 3. Lakers blew out Portland, but I felt pretty confident in that. I should have just bet Lakers -5 or whatever it was.
I had an incredible run to start the week early. I won like 5 or 6 things in a row that I provided to the chat, and then I went and backed. This was like late last weekend, and then coming into whatever the Ricky Rubio game, I said that the Cavs were like my Cavs -6 was my play, and they were up by 8 to 10 points the entire game, and then Ricky Rubio got hurt, and they ended up losing and not covering at the same time.
That's
So
insane.
that's when my bad luck
Yeah.
started. So
That's awful. Absolutely awful, bro. Just betting on basketball seems like hell right now. So I don't know. What do you want to bet on? Where is your underdog mentality pick coming from today?
yeah, I don't want to. Oh man, the football game is just disgusting. So,
Yeah,
by the way, we saw a total. I know we're way over time here, but we saw a
that's
game
fine.
total yesterday of 36.
Oh my. That sounds like college football.
Chicago,
Well,
yeah, it was Giants Bears, and that still hit the under.
wow,
So,
that's insane. That's absolutely insane.
and I don't want so Cleveland right now is +3, and the money line's +130. I don't have any faith in that at all. I think the Steelers do win today.
Okay, there you go.
So I'm not taking that. But if I had to bet something for basketball, I will back my own team,
Uh,
and I can't do that because the number makes no sense.
this
So
makes no sense. I was about to say that is not underdog mentality whatsoever.
no, it's not. But like Bucks should win by 16 anyway. Man,
We should
all of this
really
is just
educate
disgusting.
ourselves before the show and do
Yeah.
NHL bets from now on.
Well, there's no fun. There's no fun going into it with research.
Yeah. No, no. Well, I'm just saying for the NHL. Like, since we
Oh
are
yeah,
having that New Year's resolution of talking about the
yeah.
NHL, because I see someone talking about the Rangers money line in there. I feel like
Let's
we should start getting some
let
NHL bets in.
yeah. Let's blindly bet NHL money lines. Here we go. All
Here
right.
we go.
Okay. All right. Here we go. Yeah. Let's just go. I mean, there's only like a couple games today. Like
Oh,
only
there's
one
only
NHL
one
game.
game today. I think. I
So
think it's
I
just
mean,
Rangers and Oilers.
let's just back the chat. Let's just go Rangers plus.
There you go. Rangers plus 111 for
Yep.
their money line. Maybe something solid there. I'm gonna try to bet basketball, and I think I'm going to take. Luca just came back, right? So I don't know. No, I'll
Yeah.
take Nuggets over Mavs. I'll take plus 145 on the Nuggets over the Mavericks. That's what we're leaning with.
All right. Fair. I
There.
will. I will continue to bet NHL money lines on dogs that I have no idea who they are.
Just
So I would
blindly.
rather do that. I would rather do that than bet NBA spreads right now.
I don't blame you in the least. This is definitely going to be an interesting way to reacquaint myself with the NBA. I am excited to get down and dirty with the research for this NBA slate. But we have hit the end of the stream. We went a little bit over, but it is the first show back, and it wouldn't be Roto Radar without going over on a show. Give me your final thoughts, Jared.
Final thoughts. I think the Steelers win tonight and back Ben Roethlisberger hard for his last game at Heinz Field. Should be a
There you
fun
go.
one.
Definitely should be a fun one. I'm curious, really quick, if I can pull up a player prop for Big Ben and see maybe if we can get a juicy plus money pick there. Passing yards. You can get plus money for over 259 yards on Big Ben. So I don't know if maybe that entices you. Passing touchdowns. If he gets three or more passing touchdowns, you can get plus 316. I feel like that's kind of juicy.
Oh, that's very juicy. But there's no historic saying that he's ever done that this year.
Yeah, it is
uh,
a little bit of a
well,
long shot as well.
last piece of news to end the show. Who knew? Maybe 2022 is our year where we get breaking news on the show. Rock has just suspended KPJ and Wood.
That should be our New Year's resolution to try to get as much news on the show as possible, even though it's mostly out of our control. Going a little bit long today helps us know about that Rockets news, which certainly will make things interesting for that team. But let's get out of here. I have no final thoughts. It's going to be a great show tomorrow. We're going to be back for the whole week, which is going to be great. So I can't wait for more morning after shows later on this week. And as always, my name is Joshua Reimer. Good skill or good morning and good skill.